great wrestling podcast, and you can believe in that.
I knew he was going to do it. I knew.
This is OT3.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Off the Top Turnbuckle podcast. I'm Anthony. Of course, I got Paul here.
Hello.
And shortly, Matt will be joining us as well. Unfortunately, he cannot be here live tonight, but he is going to be calling in. So we will hope to have him here for the majority of the show. But if he can't be here for the majority of the show, he will be here for at least the first half is what we're hoping for. So Paul's just going to be getting him in here any second, and you should hear Matt. Is that Matt already?
Matthew? What's up, Matt?
What's going on, Matt?
Guys, how you all doing?
Okay. I guess we can.
Hey,
Can you
Anthony,
hear?
Anthony, I have a thing for you.
Oh, no.
There's a hurricane coming through.
Really? Really, with the weather going on like that here?
Yeah, all the viewers are. He's Anthony is somewhere where he gets lots of rain and storms sometimes.
Yeah. There's actually a tropical storm moving through Florida.
Ooh, that's a weird sound. Did you hear that?
Just for
Yeah, I
everyone
did
to
hear
know that's out there, I am calling from my work, so if you hear me hang up, probably have an emergency at my job.
All right.
Dedication. Calling in from work.
Absolutely. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know what that is, Anthony. I'm going to try to fix it, but I don't know what that is.
Okay, fair enough. Well, while we work through that, is it on my end, do you think, Paul, or?
No, it's on my end, I think.
Okay. Matt, while you're here, I'm going to let you start. Tonight we want to talk about NXT Takeover the End. So while Paul's working on this issue with the mic, I'm going to let Matt do the majority of the talking, and Matt, talk about some of your predictions.
Well, first, I want to start off with the Samoa Joe, obviously, versus Finn Balor, and the speculation that the loser of this is going up to the main roster. For months and months now, Finn Balor has been subject to going up to the main roster, and we think this is the title of the end could be. Sorry about that. The title this could mean the end of his tenure on NXT and the end of this rivalry that he has with Samoa Joe. So I'm going to pick Samoa Joe to come out on top of this one. What do you think about that, Anthony?
I think Samoa Joe's going to win as well. I agree. I think Finn's time is to go to the top, like you said, main roster.
All right, hey guys, I just got a call. I'm gonna keep up with you guys on the chat room. Sorry for everyone out there. Like I said, dedication at work, but duty calls. And Anthony, I'll let you take over for the rest, and I'll definitely keep up with you in the chat room right now.
All right, Matt. Thanks for calling in. We'll speak to you next week.
Yeah, sorry, everyone. And that's before I get out, are we gonna announce what we're doing next week, or are we gonna hold off?
Go ahead, Matt.
Are we gonna do it next week? Is that gonna be the date?
Yeah, let's plan to do it next week.
All right, so for next week, we've been talking about the drafts, the brand split up. So next week, me and Anthony will be doing our mock draft. We're going to go over the format, and with this mock draft, we're actually going to do a little fantasy between me and him. So that should be something next week to listen to for our mock draft. I know I'm excited. I know Anthony is.
Absolutely.
All right, so guys, have a good show. All the fans out there, especially for people from last week, thank you for listening, and I'll join you guys in the chat room.
All right, Matt, you enjoy. Thanks for calling in. Have fun at work.
All right.
We'll talk to you.
All right, stay safe out in Florida.
Thank you.
See ya. All right, I think he's done. I don't know what that noise was.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just having to do with the different wiring there for a second, but it seems that we are back and running here. So I know that was a little bit of a different start to the show, but we want to try and get Matt included, and he was really bummed that he had to work today, but he still wanted to try and call in and at least be able to talk for a little bit. So we do appreciate Matt calling in, and we're just going to continue to move on right with the show tonight. As Matt was talking about, NXT Takeover the End. He started with the main event, so I'll continue with it. We kind of touched on it, but I think Samoa Joe's going to win, and I think that's why this thing is being called the end. I think it's the end of this era of Finn Balor and some of these other guys. You've, like I said last week, you've seen Enzo and Cass already up. You've seen Tyler Breeze moved up, a couple months, probably 6 months ago at least prior. Apollo Crews, who I didn't necessarily think was in that era because he was still new, but he's gotten moved up already. And Baron Corbin, another guy that's been there for a bit, got moved up. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens prior to that, over a year now, Owens has been up. So you've just been seeing gradually these guys that came in around a similar time frame get moved up, and now it's time for this new thing. This new era of NXT. I know for a little bit people were skeptical that NXT Takeover the End meant that it was the end of NXT, but as I saw today, Triple H announced already that in Brooklyn, tickets will go on sale shortly for NXT Takeover Brooklyn in August, the night before SummerSlam again.
nice.
So
That's in
Go ahead.
Brooklyn?
It's going to be in Brooklyn, yeah,
Oh,
the
wow,
night before
okay.
SummerSlam. They do it at the Barclays Center, and SummerSlam will be there the night after.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
that was good to hear, and I'm sure that'll put to rest a lot of this, NXT's over, that's why it's being called the end. No, it's just like Matt and I had spoken about. It's the end of this era, and it's time for, some of these younger guys, to step in that it might be newer in the role to NXT. So it'll be exciting to see. But I see Samoa Joe being the guy to continue this next pack into the next, couple months, 6 months to a year until they decide to move him up. I think he'll be that next leader here down in NXT, so that'll be nice to see.
Nice.
And Finn will finally get that call up, so I know Matt will be excited to finally see Finn debut. So another title match that we'll talk about is the NXT Women's Championship. Obviously, most people expected Bayley to get the rematch, but due to injury, she was unable to compete at TakeOver for this one, so they gave a new number one contender, and Nia Jax became the number one contender. I see Asuka winning here. I think Nia Jax is a great heel, and like I said, she dominates in most matches, but I think Asuka wins, and then you have the rematch at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and I could see maybe it being some kind of gimmick match, whether it be a submission, a ladder match, or something, and having more to it than just a regular pinfall or submission wins. I think they might add something to it at TakeOver Brooklyn and show that Asuka and Bayley can really tear the house down. So, but I pick Asuka there. Again, Matt would have loved to have put his input here, so I'm sure during the... You know what? I think he's chatting with us. He just wrote, Asuka will win by submission to set up rematch. So he has Asuka winning as well. And also his picks, like I said, will be up, and mine as well will be up on the page on Facebook. So if you're not following us, please do like us on Facebook, and we'll have our picks up there. And feel free to write your picks as well on our page. So the third and final title match is the Revival in the rematch against American Alpha. I see American Alpha going over. Revival is actually another one of these end-of-era teams that I see going up as well during this brand split. I think that they're a very unique tag team. They remind me of like an old-school feel. So I think that they would be a great fit into the new this new division of tag teams. How you see it's getting stronger and stronger with people coming back over the last couple of years. Has gained a lot of steam again, so I think they'll continue that by bringing the Revival up, and hopefully that'll help the Vaudevillains too, because they kind of seem like they're going to get lost in the shuffle otherwise after their title losses to the New Day. I would hate to see something like the Ascension happen to the Vaudevillains and the Revival in their call-up. So Matt wrote American Alpha is going to win as well. Not big surprise there. Jason Jordan and Chad Gable have done awesome, and I'm excited to see them continue their reign with the titles. Then we go to two matches that don't have any titles on the line. The first match is Andrade, who is formerly known as La Sombra. He was in Mexico, and he also wrestled in New Japan for a while, but he was mostly known as CMLL in Mexico. And this is someone that's been talked about for a while, and I know he actually had a dark match prior to this, and they were using Manny Andrade. I hope I'm pronouncing Andrade correctly. But they are switching his name again, I think, to Amos and Andrade, and he's going to debut at TakeOver against Ty Dillinger. So that's going to be really cool to see. I personally have not gotten to see a lot of his work, but from people that have seen it and have told me about it, they said that he is definitely someone that's going to be a unique and special talent. So I think that'll be good to see for this new era that they're bringing in down there as well, where this guy could possibly get a strong shot at being a big player down there. So
Where's he coming from?
CMLL, it's in Mexico. He used to wrestle in Mexico, and he wrestled in New Japan a couple times too.
Oh, wow.
I think on and off. I'm not sure if he used the same name there, but I know in Mexico he was known as La Sombra.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see.
Do you know what that means translated in Spanish?
No, what does it mean?
The Shade. Dun, dun, dun.
The Shade.
I
Very
think
cool.
so.
See, I did not know that. Look at that. Very good to know.
I'm double checking just to make sure.
It's already out there now, so now it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right.
Was it right, Paul?
Yeah, like dark or dull in color tone, gloomy, oppressively solemn.
Well, very cool. So there you go. You got a little lesson of the day now too. La Sombra is the shade in English. So that's a cool little thing right there. And that brings me to the final match. And I know it's not for a title, but this is actually the match I'm most looking forward to, and that's Shinsuke Nakamura versus Austin Aries. I think two of the best on the roster, and maybe two of the best in WWE. Both of them worked great all around the world before they got here. Aries, obviously, from ROH and TNA, and then Nakamura was in New Japan. I've gotten to see both of them wrestle in NXT now, as well as I've seen them in previous matches in both companies. So I'm very excited to see what kind of match they'll put on at Takeover, and I think it could definitely be the one that steals the show, despite being for not being for a title. And I feel that this one could have implications of being the winner, being the new number one contender. Some surprises I think might happen as well. I'm sorry, I didn't say who I think would win. I picked Nakamura to win the match. I could see Aries maybe turning heel here after the match, after Nakamura beats him. He's not going to be a fan of having a loss and maybe turning him heel. But I think Nakamura gets the win here clean. Matt also said Nakamura will win and he'll challenge Samoa Joe, which is why I think that this match will be for the number one contendership for the NXT title, and I could see that happening at TakeOver Brooklyn. Another thing that Matt and I talked about was, do we see any more debuts come, especially with this influx of talent that have been signing lately and then the talent going up. One of the people I heard, first of all, returning from injury after a long time is Hideo Itami, so he could possibly show up, or maybe they hold him off to the brand split. But another one that I really think might happen is Bobby Roode, I think, is going to show up after the match, after Joe beats Balor, and I think that might set up something between Roode and Joe, maybe on a NXT taping, that he comes out and talks to him. But I still see it as Nakamura getting that next match for the title at TakeOver Brooklyn.
That's exactly what Matt posted. Right when you he posted like 30 seconds before you said that you wanted to talk about these the debuts or whatever, the special things that were going on. So yeah.
Yep.
Bobby
so
Roode.
Matt and I have talked about that. So I think that's another thing that could very well happen on Wednesday at TakeOver. So I'm definitely excited. I know it's only 5 matches announced, so 2-hour special. You would think that a lot of these matches are going to have a good amount of time to go out there and show what they can do. So definitely excited to see some of these matches. I'm very excited to see the new debut of Andrade, to see what he brings to the table. So I think NXT TakeOver is going to be a very special show here on Wednesday, considering it's called The End. But let's see if it's what we think, and if the end means that it's just the end of this era, or maybe it's something we're not thinking and they're just putting out that TakeOver Brooklyn is going to be there, and then it's going to end up getting renamed to something else, and it's just them throwing another wrench at us to try and throw a curveball. So, but for now, I'm thinking that NXT is still going to be around. I think it's doing really well, and I don't see it going anywhere. So that'll definitely be interesting to see on Wednesday how it ends. But hope for Bobby Roode at the end. That's my hope.
And where did Bobby Roode come from? Was he?
He was in TNA as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in TNA. Him and Austin Aries actually had a few matches in TNA that were really good. They were there around the same time. There was a couple other. Eric Young, he had one match in NXT recently, but I haven't seen him since. So I don't know if it was just like one of those one-match deal type things. Mm-hmm. But supposedly Bobby Roode signed with WWE NXT. So now it'll be cool to see when he finally shows up, or if that was another false report.
Okay.
But definitely exciting stuff going on.
Yeah,
and Matt made a good point. Yeah, he said Austin has a lot improved since the last match. They put him in a match against Baron Corbin. And, Baron Corbin's a bigger guy, so it's a little bit of a different kind of style for Aries to have. But it'll be cool to see what Aries can do when it's someone that's kind of on his, same level of skill in the ring. Not to say Corbin's bad, but Corbin's a bigger guy. He can move around, but he's not going to do those same kind of, moves that Aries does as a smaller guy. So it'll be cool to see him and Nakamura square off and see what the both of them bring to the table. Because the last time we saw Nakamura take over, him and Sami Zayn had one of the best matches of the year already. So it'll be good to see how he tops this one now on Wednesday.
Nice.
Another huge thing that came out this weekend There was rumors circulating for a long time. I mean, not a long time. Sorry, rumors circulating all day that day that it wasn't going to be true. People were saying there's no way it can't be happening. He left his contract, but is now confirmed, and he even has an opponent. Brock Lesnar will return at UFC 200 to face Mark Hunt. I know we don't usually cover UFC. The reason I'm covering it today is because this is a very unique opportunity. It's a trailblazing thing, if I don't say so, myself about it, because we've never seen anything like this. Yeah, we saw Ronda Rousey show up in the ring at WrestleMania 31 while being under contract to UFC, but I've never seen it to where you're going to actually have a WWE superstar still under contract. Yes, he's only a part-timer, Brock Lesnar, but he's going to have a match at UFC after not even being technically under contract, to UFC, and he's going to have a one-off match on UFC 200 against one of their better heavyweights, too. He's in the top 10 in the rankings. It's not like it's a new guy. It's someone that's been there for a while. So it's going to be interesting to see how he rebounds. I know Brock Lesnar has been in great shape, and he's been keeping up, because there's a difference of being in shape and then being in UFC shape. And you could kind of see, and they allude to it before he re-signed with WWE, that he was taking his training a lot more serious, as if he was going to get back into the octagon again. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes down. I think Brock Lesnar is going to win, and I think it does great things for the WWE. But the WWE already announced that once, because that was the thing that people were skeptical about was, okay, he signed it, he'd break his contract. But the WWE came out and announced that, yes, Lesnar will compete, and then he will compete at SummerSlam on August 21st.
Okay.
Which is so that'll be the next big pay-per-view other than WrestleMania. That's the second biggest for WWE. So it was good to know that, but it was definitely something, like I said, that many people did not expect to see, and now I think everyone's kind of wondering, where's the payoff for WWE?
Mm-hmm.
What are they getting out of it? I've heard multiple different rumors. I've heard that it could lead to some of the women of UFC might show up at SummerSlam and have an in-ring thing happen, like an in-ring controversy, something like that. Have a confrontation with some of the wrestlers, or it could just be one of them comes out to promote something. The other cool thing I heard was UFC has a pay-per-view the night before, and they're actually going to promote SummerSlam. So one way or the other, they're getting more eyes on both products. Because if Lesnar goes into UFC, obviously it's not it's not a scripted show like WWE, where they know the outcome. Anything could happen. So if Lesnar goes in there and Lesnar wins, it's just he's gonna come back, and whoever he faces next, they're gonna be like, okay, they're gonna be able to tout that on the the announcers. Brock Lesnar's coming off a big UFC 200 win, and then he's gonna come in and face someone, and if someone beats him in a match, they're gonna look like $1 million because they just beat someone that was in the world of UFC after not being around for so long.
Yeah.
And now they're beating him in back in the WWE ring where it's their domain. I see Matt's writing in there, can you see me now? Because when they released the promo for UFC 200, that's what it said, and then it showed Brock Lesnar. And, that was when immediately everything was confirmed that he was returning. So that'll be cool to see. Another interesting thing about UFC is former WWE superstar and champion CM Punk is now expected to debut at UFC 202, which would be the night before SummerSlam. So that'll be interesting to see because there's been so many jokes and ribs about, Punk signed over a year ago, and he was supposed to have his first match in UFC this past year. They said, obviously it didn't happen. They said for sure it would happen. They were originally the target was UFC 200. Then they pushed it back again, and they just kept coming up with stuff. And it's been over a year since he signed, and yet still no match. But now they're saying that everything looks like it's set, to be UFC 202, which would be interesting to see CM Punk make his debut the night before SummerSlam and see how that ties in as well. Maybe something out of the box, and maybe CM Punk shows up on WWE. I mean, I highly doubt it happens, but who knows? Maybe, who would have thought Lesnar shows up at UFC while under contract? So it's definitely a cool relationship to see being built there between the two. And as Brock Lesnar said he's the modern-day Bo Jackson. I mean, you haven't seen someone cross over between two sports, and I know people will say, oh, well, wrestling's not a sport, but, it takes a lot of skill what they do and a talent level to do what they do. So to see someone be able to do both things, it's definitely impressive, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. So I don't know if you follow UFC at all, Paul, or not
I do.
too much.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, probably
Okay.
more than I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Do you know a lot about Mark Hunt?
Not really.
Okay, yeah. See, I don't know much about him either. I just know he's, like I said, I know he's one of the better guys there, one of the better heavyweights. So it'll be interesting to see. So I know Matt's saying promote his title shot in WWE. Is it necessary that Lesnar gets a title shot? They still don't know, and Lesnar said it today on ESPN. There's no really plan of who he's facing. He just knows that he will be at SummerSlam. But another thing that I saw that could cause a snag in him performing at SummerSlam is, since it's in New York, the New York's state health association, the people that he has to be thoroughly checked before he's allowed to compete. So if something happens at UFC, they could decide to say, hey, you know what, in a month from now he's not allowed to compete at SummerSlam. So it's a big risk, if something are to happen to him, because obviously he's, a big name on a SummerSlam ticket, and he's going to do great things for UFC 200 with already a stacked card. But it's definitely going to be something to see how the payoff goes. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen now on WWE's side, since UFC is getting Lesnar. Like I said, Paige Van Zant's been rumored to show up at SummerSlam to have some kind of in-ring thing. Or maybe, we finally get this Ronda Rousey match that they've been talking about for over a year now, since past WrestleManias. And then, of course, I know Matt, if I don't mention this, he'll get very upset. He always talks about Conor McGregor. Will Conor McGregor finally have something to do with the WWE? That's been alluded to for a while, too. So
I hope they throw him around. Just throw him on some tacks. Throw him on a table or something.
So awesome. we will see what happens there. I'm guessing you're not a fan of McGregor there, huh, Paul?
I mean, I was impressed with his fighting, like in the beginning, like when he's just started kind of getting hot and like started winning or whatever. But yeah, he's like, I don't know, just his attitude towards the end, the last whatever with this whole thing with Dana, and he didn't want to come back to train or promote or whatever the case would have been. Just kind of, I don't know.
Kind of sours you. I get it. Yeah, as a fan. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Where everybody else just maintains such a much more kind of professional type of like attitude, which I think is probably I don't know. That sits better with me that way.
Absolutely, I agree.
Matt says I'm a hater.
No, Matt's the hater. Believe me. After last week with ragging on John Cena, The Rock, he was all over everybody last week.
Everybody. He was practically just spitting on the WWE.
Like, yeah, Matt was definitely the one that was upset last week. I don't think you saying that is wrong. I actually read what McGregor was doing, and he was saying he was going to retire at one point, and then he said that's not what I meant. So,
Yeah.
I think that whole situation wasn't handled right by him. I agree with you 100%. But we shall see. But like I said, I'm sure Matt will want to talk more about it next week. Matt is under this illusion, and I know you see me rolling my eyes, because he's under this illusion that Conor McGregor and The Rock are going to have a WrestleMania match sometime down the road.
That's such a weird, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a strange one if it does work out that way.
Yeah.
Have they had like some beef or like a feud? Has The Rock talked anything about it or anything like that?
Not that I know of. No, I don't think there's anything. That's the other thing I'm thinking too, is a lot of these WWE guys go to the UFC shows when Lesnar fights. Yeah. So maybe they have some kind of, shoot, as they would call it, where UFC goes a little WWE style and goes out into the crowd and messes with one of the wrestlers that are sitting there to kind of set up something for the future. That's something I didn't even think about till just now, because I know like Undertaker and Stone Cold and The Rock even sometimes go to Brock Lesnar's fights, and you'll see other guys that are currently still wrestling there. So yeah. Goldberg, another guy who was just announced for 2K. I know Matt's talking about Goldberg, Spear, and Brock. What, Oh, he wrote it's a joke now about his Conor McGregor Rock match thing. Sure it was, Matt. So we'll leave it at that, like I said, for that part, and we'll wait to see. Exciting stuff, like I said. Can't wait to see if this leads to more crossovers. It'd be a great thing to see, and I look forward to the more news out of this UFC and WWE partnership. Hopefully it's not just a one-time deal. But the one thing I want to talk about before we leave, obviously, is Monday Night Raw. Last week, you finally saw, Cena come back after being gone for a while. Yeah, he showed up at Mania to help The Rock, but he still wasn't fully cleared, and he came back last week. and AJ Styles came out, shook his hand, said, I respect what you do, and, no one ever thought we'd both be in this ring. And for a lot of people, it's true. You're talking about the face of TNA and the face of WWE for the better part of a decade, each doing it, and now they're both in the WWE ring at the same time. And it ends up that AJ rejoins the club after last week saying that he wanted to be on his own. So how will he explain tonight, what made him, what was the mastermind behind that? Did AJ come up with that plan all along to sucker Cena in, or was it after he had a loss, he just realized maybe he needed to go back to the club who he considers his brothers? So I'm excited to see what happens tonight with that. Cena and AJ Styles is a huge match that I never thought I would see.
Yeah.
I really didn't. And now we're going to get to see it at Money in the Bank and I think 2 weeks from, a week from this Sunday coming up. So 2 weeks from yesterday. So that's going to be an awesome match to watch because, obviously I'm rooting for AJ, but now AJ's the heel too. That changes everything. For a while they kept saying, AJ's going to turn heel here. And if we thought it was going to happen, I thought it would have happened during a Roman Reigns match, but it ended up not going down the way I thought it was going to go down, and then he turns heel on a returning John Cena. And, the crowd was booing him, so it worked out. And I would love to see how AJ responds tonight on Raw. I want to hear what him and the club have to say. So that'll definitely be interesting, transpiring tonight on Raw, as well as is there going to be a seventh man in this Money in the Bank briefcase match? They keep alluding that it was a seven-man match, and then the six, they say, match will take place on Raw and SmackDown. They have the match on SmackDown. This is going back 2 weeks, not this past SmackDown, but the one before. Del Rio has one match. They say, the other match take place on Raw. No match takes place on Raw. No match took place on SmackDown. And now again tonight, here we are 2 weeks from the first couple matches that we had, and we still don't know if there's a seventh. So it's tonight the night Bray Wyatt finally shows up. And, he becomes the seventh man in the match, or do we continue with just the six and maybe Wyatt shows up at Money in the Bank and does that? So we'll see how that works out. I'm very excited. I really do hope that Bray Wyatt gets the seventh spot and ends up winning the Money in the Bank briefcase match. I think it would be awesome because, his entrance already, when he comes out and interrupts something, the lights go out. And I think it would just be a really cool way to have if a match is going on and say someone's about to pin him and then the lights come back on and then you just see the briefcase laying there and Bray Wyatt's, already pinning the person that's the champion, and that's how he wins. He doesn't technically do anything, but that's how he comes out and takes the title and becomes the champion.
Right.
It would just be really cool to see because that's that's his character. That's the Wyatt family, that's what they do. So I'm excited to see how that's going to play out too, and hopefully doesn't end up just being the six of them, at least adding the seventh returning person, or maybe Randy Orton returns and gets, involved in the Money in the Bank briefcase match. So definitely looking forward to seeing if they do show up. Bray Wyatt. Yep, and Matt just said, remember, Wyatt comes back tonight. So he did post on Twitter that, there is a house in New Orleans, and that's where they are tonight. So let's hope that it is alluding to Bray Wyatt's return tonight on Monday Night Raw.
Nice.
But I'm excited about that. How about you, Paul? Anything? Have you watched any recently? Anything that's caught your eye maybe in the last couple of weeks?
No, like last week I said I was hopefully trying to watch the Raw, but that didn't end up happening.
Fair enough. Didn't pan out.
My son ended up happening, so it's like, okay. Yeah, so anyway, it's maybe tonight. I don't know. I always try to.
Fair enough.
I
Fair
just
enough.
Get tired and crash.
I understand. Yeah, I understand that. Happens to me every once in a while. I'm glad I record it because sometimes I'm sitting there watching it. Next thing I know, it's 12 o'clock and I slept through the last 2 hours. So, it's definitely glad to have that DVR. But
right on.
I don't really have much more tonight, Paul. Matt obviously announced, which is great. We're going to shoot for next week. If it's not next week, it'll be the week after. I know Matt announced it earlier, but I just thought about it. Next week will be the Go Home Money in the Bank show, so we might do like a 15-minute segment of Money in the Bank and then go into the draft, or maybe we'll do the draft all the following week with no talk of Money in the Bank. But I think we're going to try and stick with it since Matt announced it with next week, if it's okay with Paul. I know we didn't really check with him beforehand, but
That's all right. Yeah, it works.
so next week we'll do the draft. We will. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. What am I doing? Matt's right. Seth Rollins and Vinny. They both wrote Seth frickin' Rollins and how about Rollins. Before I go, let me talk about Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. That match is going to take place as well at Money in the Bank, and a lot of people are calling for Seth Rollins to take the title off of Roman Reigns already, even though, they're saying that Roman Reigns should get a lengthy run. But people are saying Rollins is back, Rollins is the man, despite that Roman Reigns is not a bad guy or a good guy, he's just the guy. Seth Rollins is the man, as he says. So Seth Rollins never lost his title, and he's claiming that the title is his, and that's what he wants. But last week on Raw, he didn't say a word. He came down, Roman called him out, and then he went to look like he was going to talk, walked to the ring, ran back to the ring, ran back, and just playing mind games with Roman. So it'll be, hopefully tonight, Rollins says something. I know he said something when he returned, the first night after Extreme Rules, but last week on Raw, he literally didn't say a word the whole entire night, despite Roman calling him out. So we'll talk more about my predictions on that match next week before Money in the Bank, but hopefully we get some more answers about Rollins and Reigns tonight, and maybe Rollins says a little something to give more insight to it. But now that I talked about that, and we talked about the draft a little bit, the format, what we're going to do is, I think Matt and me agreed on, it's going to be probably 10 picks. The 10 picks will be individual, and we'll also each pick one tag team, and only that one tag team will stay together, and the rest of the superstars that aren't picked as a tag team could be split. And one diva. We're going to stick with that Charlotte defends on both shows. We haven't decided yet about Roman, if Roman would be on both shows. So, but for sure, we're going to keep Charlotte as the women's champion, and she would go to Raw and SmackDown. So then that's why we're only going to take just the one woman for now. We might do an extended one on our Facebook with who else, like how they do it in real life. They do the main draft on, and then they do a supplemental draft after Raw goes off the air. Yeah. So we might do something like that as well in the coming time after that. But for now, we're just going to stick with the 10 individual picks, one tag team each, because the New Day would obviously be on, I would say, on both shows, since there would only be one tag title as of this moment in time. And we'll do one diva as well that we'll each pick. So that'll be next week. We'll let you know about a start time. Obviously, tonight we started a little earlier. Paul was able to help me out this week. I know because the storms are coming. I want to try and get it done as soon as possible. So I do appreciate you, Paul, getting on here earlier and making sure we get the show in before any kind of bigger thunderstorms start, and maybe the power had some issues with connection. So. But next week, we'll be posting on Facebook throughout the week. Obviously, it'll be a big show next week. So if you aren't able to tune in this week, please do tune in next week, because Matt and I are very excited, and I'm sure Paul's going to be excited about it too, about doing this draft. It's something we've been talking about for a while, and the brand split is going to be a great thing. So definitely tune in next week to OT3. And Paul, I'm going to hand it over to you, because that's about it for me tonight.
Yeah, you got it. All right, so as Anthony just said, make sure to catch all that stuff and stay updated on all the things that are going to be happening when the next show is going to happen, what we're discussing leading up to the next show, big show. Then go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube if you're watching. Smash that subscribe button. That'll help us out. Follow us on Facebook, as Anthony said. That's Facebook.com/Off the Top Turnbuckle. And then you can also send us your comments, questions, whatever you want to send us to ot3podcast@gmail.com. And tweet us. We'd love to see what you have to say. Tweet us during tonight's Raw event, if you like, at ot3podcast1. We'd love to see it, that's for sure. So that's it. That's all I got, at least.
Yeah, and one last thing I forgot to say about the draft was also we will be taking one NXT guy as well. So someone that's not currently being called, that's already called up, so it would have to be someone that's still in NXT that's down there. Okay. So that'll be cool. And if they haven't returned yet, such as like an injured Hideo Itami, or how Elias Sampson recently just got injured and he's going to be sidelined for a little bit, they could be your NXT pick next week. So it's someone that's still currently in NXT, whether injured or not, that could be picked. It can't be someone that's already been called up that was from NXT. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to Vince and Matt for chatting in the chat room. Vince,
yes.
That was awesome. What else did you have? Sorry.
No, that was it.
Okay, cool.
That's it, yeah.
All right, then next week it is then.
Next week, yeah. We'll see everyone. Thanks for watching again tonight. I know it was a quicker show, and it's just me and Paul, but we held it down, and Matt
Stay dry. I hope your roof stays up.
Thank you. I hope so
crazy
too.
over there. Oh man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's it. Vince says, "Awesome show. Love you guys in the show."
Love you too, Vin. Love you too, man.
What was that one guy? He was like, "I love you." Wasn't he like in the WWF? He was the.
Oh man, that's gonna be.
He had like a really pale face.
Brother
anyway.
Love?
Yeah, maybe that was him. Yeah, you're right.
It might have been Brother Love. I think it was Brother Love. Yeah.
Anyway. All right, that's what I remember at least.
There you go. We'll leave it with that. With Brother Love's "I Love You" that Paul did right there for you. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their night and enjoys Monday Night Raw. Thanks again for watching. Next week, Matt, Paul, and myself will all be here, and we're looking forward to doing our OT3 draft. So we'll see everyone next week. Again, Paul, thanks again, and thanks to everyone who watched, and especially who chatted with us, Vinny and Matt. And we'll see everyone next week.
Excellent.
You guys have a great rest of the night.
See ya. Bye.